Urged on the other side, in Italy, he'd lost half his army, a staggering 20,000 men.
When we look at what Hannibal accomplished, the crossing of the Alps, it makes us realize how close he came not to victory, but to defeat. For had Hannibal and his men perished of starvation and of exposure on the slopes of these Alps, as they well could have, Hannibal would have disappeared from the pages of history and would have been relegated to nothing more than an insignificant footnote.
To lose half his army before even reaching Roman soil could have spelled the end of Hannibal's campaign. But it didn't. What allowed him to continue boils down to one critical factor. Hannibal commanded what was, in essence, a mercenary army.
Hannibal's army is the best in the world at that time. It's very experienced. It consists of professional soldiers. Fighting is what they do.
He built his army around a core of trusted crack troops. It was a veritable multinational melting pot of men drawn from Carthage's many subject territories.
It's also a well-balanced army. It consists of lots of different nations, all speaking different languages, but each of them bring particular techniques of fighting that together are far more formidable than an army that's everyone fights in exactly the same way. The genius of Hannibal is that he takes all these disparate elements and gets them to work in combination.
Utilizing their different skills, he united them into a formidable fighting force, far deadlier than merely the sum of their parts. The bulk of Hannibal's army was made up of Spanish soldiers who formed the core of his infantry. Famed as warriors using a curved sword, the falcata. In addition to his troops from Spain, he had various specialists. Slingers from the Balearic Islands. From today's perspective, using a sling as a weapon might seem a bit primitive, but they were formidable. They more than matched any contemporary archer. Legend has it that the Balearic slingers were paid in women rather than gold or silver. And then there were the Numidian cavalry from North Africa. They were incredibly maneuverable. They would charge the enemy, shower them with javelins, then flee, only to rally and repeat the attack.
These blokes don't ride with a saddle, they don't ride with a bridle, they don't wear any armor, they're very fast, ride small, agile little ponies, and they're natural horsemen. They've been riding since they were small boys.
On the battlefield, there was no cavalry that even came close to matching them. With his fast and flexible army, Hannibal was a formidable opponent by any standard. But he had another ace up his sleeve, a weapon designed to strike fear and terror. Almost as famous as Hannibal himself are the elephants he used in battle. These were the Carthaginians' terror weapon. Small numbers of elephants could have a massive effect. It's not hard to imagine why. The sight of charging elephants would strike fear into any right-thinking person facing them.
Elephants are mainly terror weapons. They scare the living daylights out of the enemy, make them run away. They're big, they're grey, they make strange noises, they're smelly, they frighten people. There's something that no one's ever seen before, particularly for a Roman. You've never seen an animal that's that sort of size, and you certainly haven't seen one bearing down on you in great numbers. So all it has to do is turn up and come charging towards you, and you're already pretty scared.
You cannot imagine how fast an elephant can be if he goes wild. The most people, they think an elephant is very slow and because he's so big. He's like 40, 45 kilometers per hour. He can move very, very fast. So I think it's a very effective weapon in the war.
The elephants used by the Carthaginians were a smaller, now extinct breed of African elephant from the foothills of North Africa's Atlas Mountains. the deployment of the battle elephant wasn't particularly subtle. Immediately before the battle, the elephants were first plied with wine.
I can imagine he used some alcohol, because elephants, they like alcohol. Like beer or wine or something like this. They will drink it. And it's like, the effect is like for people, some people are very shy. So they drink some alcohol, and they're the biggest fighter in the world. And this isn't with an elephant. You can turn the character with alcohol.
The elephants would then be prodded in their ankles. In their inebriated state, this would have made them as mad as hell. Then it was simply a matter of pointing them at the enemy and charging. And hanging on.
The elephant is very big and very large, and it's just going to trample its way through any formation. So they're very formidable. They can break up particularly dense bodies of troops, and cavalry, they're just frightened by terrifying the horses.
Hardly a weapon of surgical precision, the idea was that they would batter the enemy, breaking their lines.
When an elephant attacks people, he will use his whole body. So, first of all, they will roll the trunk in. They get down with the head, and they attack with the trunk and hit very hard. If they have tusk and use the tusk, you will maybe already be dead by a hit from a tusk. And the feet, they go on and smash everything under the feet. They go like tomato juice.
However, there was a fundamental flaw to this weapon system. They were inherently unpredictable.
The problem is that they're temperamental creatures. They really don't naturally do this sort of thing, and they don't want to be in a noisy, colourful, swirling battle.
By and large, if you have a 5-ton fighting machine, it is better if it isn't temperamental, drunk, and knows who its enemies are. Since running amok is something an elephant can also do very well.
He don't know the difference between Roman people and Carthaginians. They only learn to attack people. And it don't matter what, black, white, yellow, green, they go and attack everything.
As a last resort, the elephant driver was issued with a spike and hammer to drive into the elephant's skull to kill it.
The problem with this is that very often the reason why the elephant's panicked is because its driver's been killed in the first place, and even if he's still alive, he's probably hanging on for dear life just to stay up there and not thinking of anything clever like that.
But even with a terror weapon and a flexible fighting force, they're of little use without the skill to deploy them effectively. As a battlefield commander, Hannibal still ranks as one of the world's elite.
Hannibal's military legacy is really one based upon tactical genius, tactical skill. It's particularly at the battlefield level that he tends to be most admired.
In both of his first battles in Italy, he managed to defeat the Roman army despite being hugely outnumbered, simply by using the element of surprise.
Hannibal has the knack of doing the unexpected. He always is several steps ahead of his opponent in terms of thinking and what he does. He can set them up in ambush positions. He chooses where the battle will be fought. The Romans dance to his tune because he makes them do exactly what he wants.
At the battles of Trebia in December 218 BC and then the following year at Lake Trasimene, Hannibal ambushed the numerically superior Roman army, well and truly crushing them each time. But Hannibal's ultimate lesson in tactics would come in 216 BC, at the Battle of Cannae. Having had their noses bloodied twice already, the Roman army was determined not to make the same mistake a third time. This time they really meant business and dispatched an army of some 80,000 to deal with Hannibal, they hoped, for the last time. It was the largest army Rome had ever marshaled, outnumbering Hannibal's forces by something like